I was honestly going to make a song about this, but I'm a 90's child. I remember when times were easier. I'm a 90's child. I remember when kids got along with kids. I'm a 90's child. I remember when kids would go over to their neighbors' houses and play with their neighbors. I'm a 90's child. I remember when tablets didn't even exist. Imagine that. I'm a 90's child. I remember when we had to use tape recorders to have fun. Yes, tape recorders were fun. We didn't have iPhones to record our voices and apps. I'm a 90's child. I remember the days when we played outside all the time. I'm a 90's child. And boy, life used to be fun. I'm a 90's child. I remember mad cow disease when it first came out. My parents were talking about it, and I didn't know what it was because I was too young. I'm a 90's child. I remember when MTV still had music videos. The good old days. Now it's shit. I'm a 90's child. I grew up watching Saturday morning cartoons. Like, not limited to, Looney Tunes, Yu-Gi-Oh!, more Looney Tunes, Batman Beyond, Jackie Chan Adventures, etc. The Animaniacs, etc., 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 etc. I am a 90's child. We used to use pencil boxes. I don't know if they still use those. I'm a 90's child. We didn't have smartphones. By the time I was in high school, we had the first ever keyboard flip phones. I'm a 90's child. All this new age stuff is hard for me. I'm a 90's child. I hate how the world is changing. And I can admit I hate change. But you have to adapt to change. And the world is changing fast. I'm a 90's child. I remember 9/11. And at the time, I didn't know we caused it. I didn't know the Rothschilds caused it. I was afraid of terrorists because my parents would always tell me at the time that there are terrorists and that the army is good. I remember old South Park. I remember old Family Guy. I'm a 90's child. I remember when cartoons were good and not shit. I'm a 90's child. I grew up with MySpace. And if you don't know what MySpace is, MySpace was Facebook until Facebook took over and fucked MySpace up. Yeah. I'm a 90's child, and I remember days before we have to get chips in our arms to pay for medication, to pay for items, to pay for food. I remember days before those days, and that's coming up about next year. I'm a 90's child, and I remember when everything wasn't so goddamn expensive. I'm a 90's child. I remember when Netflix first started, and it was just a little tiny company, and no one thought it was going to get big. It was just small. Now it's an empire of a company. I'm a 90's child. I remember listening on the news to conspiracy theorists, which are now actually the people who have been telling us the truth for so long. I'm a 90's child. As a kid, I went hiking with family in nature. Families don't do that anymore. Families stay inside and go on the computer and go on tablets and go on phones and are disconnected from reality. I'm a 90's child. I'm a 90's child. And I'm proud to be a 90's child. One of these days, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave society forever. Because I'm a 90's child. And I grew up in a time where the world wasn't like this. And in that time, I knew nothing about the world. As I got older, I learned more and more about how fucked up this world really is and who really controls this world. And the more I learn, the more I don't want to be here. The more I don't like this society that I'm living in. I mean, we start wars. We start wars to make money with people who didn't do anything to us. We are horrible, horrible people, and it's not even us. It's just the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. They are starting all this shit for money. But why? Why? For control. If you thought there wasn't kings and queens of this world, they are the kings and queens. The world we live in isn't the world we live in anymore. We live in a dictatorship. You think North Korea is bad, where there are cameras everywhere, where everyone's a snitch, where you can't pretty much do anything. Everywhere is controlled. There's cameras. What do you think's happening with us? There are agents everywhere. There are cameras everywhere. We have no privacy. I'm being watched through my computer camera right now. You have no privacy anywhere. You're watched through your cell phone camera. You're tracked through your cell phone camera everywhere you go. You have no freedom. I'm a 90's child, and I approve this message.